maybe I can structure a little bit the debate and come to some conclusions from my point of view. First of all, there are a lot of important topics now on the table. NATO, yes, sorry.
I think you have to face the front.
NATO and is NATO, how's the shape of NATO? And my point would be that NATO is not prepared for the situation like this, as maybe the European Union was not. The relationship to Russia, of course, my lesson learned is, and this is also an important issue, but this is would be a next Congress, I guess, that Russia only understands the language of power, but this is to be debated. And then the European Union. And I think you're completely right in the description that there are two strategies in the European Union in contradiction when you leave it like it is. The first strategy or the first approach is that the European Union is a union of values, democracy, freedom, peace, and so on and so forth. So the inner integrity of the states is important to be a member and to organize the European Union. And this is kind of the European Union since the collapse of the Soviet Union in the last 30 years. And the second strategy is the strategy we discussed since Applebaum and Enrico Letta here. And this is the geostrategic role, the Greenland issue, the Ukraine war. And of course, there is a different approach to the world order, where when you want to be, when this is a time of a predator and you are a small, nice cat, well, you'll be eaten, as we heard before. And this has nothing to do with being on the higher moral stage or having the higher moral ground. This is pure power game. And these two strategies, the one that is really much as the foundation of the European Union and the actual one, are in contradiction. And there's no real way out when you come from one point or another. When you discuss it as black or white, then I think you have to combine it, and then you are in the middle, and this is gray. And the gray, from my point of view, is the question the European Union has now to ask itself: what kind of union does it want to be in the future? And forget about the past for a while. And then there are three, at least I would say, three possible options on the table. The first one is muddling through. So the thing we have done like the last 10, 15 years, whenever money is missing and we don't have the authority to gain some money, we find some money in some other pockets and we give it another name, and then it's not a debt and it's not guaranteed by Germany. But so this is the way we're doing things in Europe, compromising it, doing compromise, but also compromising then the pure logic of the solution. The second one is reform itself. This is, I think, mainly about the inner structure of the European Union. So if the Western Balkan countries, including Serbia, will be members of the European Union, we can't go with a veto system and the unanimity system in foreign politics and fiscal politics. And I think it's not possible that every member state has a commissioner then. Then we have, 40 commissioners? So this is the inner reform structure. And the third one is maybe a little bit off the table, but listening to Enrico Letta and Applebaum was in this way enlightened, talking about the finality of the European Union. So do we want to overcome this situation and doing a big leapfrog forward that the European Union becomes a real political powerhouse, which means, of course, that the three remaining issues that are not Europeanized, fiscal politics, foreign politics, and defense politics, in some way or another, as they are connected to geopolitics, become also part of the European Union. But then to make not a secret about it, I would say then we are talking about something like the United States of Europe in the end. Because fiscal politics, remember, no taxation without legislation, that's part of the national sovereignty, of course, foreign politics, and at least defense politics. So this is something big and maybe too big. What would be my answer? I would say it's always in the middle of these two. As a former politician, I would say I would have a pragmatic approach. I would say kind of between meddling through and reforms, we find a common ground, and in the next 2 years we do some reform steps. Now, from a little bit from outside of politics, I would say this is not enough. So between reforms and leapfrog forward, not that we have to write a constitution and say now we're the United States of Europe, but a little bit more ambition is necessary. And with that, then we can approach the other potential partners out of a position of strength, which might include Turkey in a cooperation economically, maybe militarily, but not that you are, of course, in the first moment part of the European Union. I think you don't want to in the moment now, but also Canada on the other side. But there, the status quo, this is my point, is not enough.